It has finally happened, the reveal of the original Tokita Niko'S, with it being confirmed that there was 7 of them. This panel here is the original 7 Tokita Niko'S. We know exactly who Ohma's master was, clearly looking very similar in his younger years. However, we don't really have a clear representation of who the Tiger Niko was, and whether he's actually even part of this group. In this chapter, it's confirmed that only a handful of them could handle the training from Guy Mukaku to become the Niko'S. Maybe the Tiger Niko was part of this group, but I don't particularly think so. I'm predicting it's one of these guys. Let me know down below which one of them you think it is, but if I had to place my bet, I think it's him if I'm being honest. Just a prediction out of nowhere, none of them really look like him, so just gonna go with that for now. However, pretty much everything I talked about in my previous video prediction wise kinda happened this chapter, with Guy Mukaku just chilling out a little bit, and now he's going to explain everything we've been waiting for since back in Kengan, including how it doesn't seem like this is a clone in any way. This is just us seeing Guy Mukaku's personality for the first time. I'm guessing there's still some of you out there who think this is a clone, this isn't the original Guy Mukaku, due to art inconsistency, like this is what Guy Mukaku looked in this flashback compared to the flashback in Kengan. I think it's just a change of art style, nothing too major. There's only one Guy Mukaku and it's still this person here. On top of that, something else majorly important that was confirmed by Mukaku this chapter is that Ryuki is a clone of the so-called connector that the worm worships. So confirming that the connector is above the worm and kind of viewed as, I guess, a god in some ways. Pretty interesting stuff. Ryuki and Ohma were confirmed to be clones by Faye before his death. Now it's confirmed that the connector is the person who they're clones of. We've been waiting for this for quite some time now. That was the common theory ever since Wulong got revealed that he's the person these two are clones of, just 100% confirmation now. However, we have other reveals that I'm going to talk about shortly, but first, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, it's greatly appreciated. Leave a like, it does help the videos out. Let's continue. So our boy Guy Mukaku is quite the sussy individual. I quite like his character and personality. Of course, I get the sense that when the action actually begins, he kinda fully switches on like we saw when he took out one of the direct subordinates of the worm a few chapters ago. This is just his goofy state. When he wants to, he can switch on and probably has this crazy aura around him when he actually does. Something I mentioned in my most recent Kengan Omega videos is how old would Guy Mukaku actually be, as he should technically be around the same age as Metsudo, with him still looking like this. We have him in this chapter saying, "I'll have you know I'm 1 century young." Does this mean Guy Mukaku is indeed over 100 years old? Could be the case, I don't know how. Potentially something to do with the whole immortality theory, clones and everything that's going on with the worm. Maybe he was the original creator of the worm. Of course, I don't think that's the case. But if he is actually this old, very impressive stuff. I do think there's other factors playing a part into this, before this most likely to be revealed in the future. So very clearly this is an amazing chapter, hype all around. But low-key, my favourite moment was Okubo getting some shit talked about him. Always deserved Okubo, the #1 bozo in the whole series. He didn't need to be mentioned, but he was, because he is the #1 bozo. Even Sandovich knows this at this point. We learned that Ryuki did actually meet up with Mukaku and probably talked about his time outside of the inside. The whole reason for him returning to the inside was to pretty much see his grandfather Guy Mukaku again and get various clarification for certain things. We don't know exactly what they talked about, however Ryuki is no longer here. He's still somewhere else in the inside, and we don't really know what he's actually doing, which will most likely be explained by Guy Mukaku in the coming chapters, as we're leading into a full flashback of Mukaku explaining everything exactly what I wanted. We also learn exactly why Ryuki left the inside and joined the Kengan matches. Pretty much Guy Mukaku told him to do this, saying, "I let Ryuki fight in the Kengan matches just so the worm could find him." Ryuki is indispensable to the worm, so I reckon they'll send their top men after him, for the sake of Ryuki being able to kill them, as Guy Mukaku believes he's trained Ryuki strong enough that he could potentially take out any worm, which is pretty crazy as Ryuki has been kinda slacking in overall power wise in a lot of the Kengan matches recently. However, of course, Ryuki has this crazy killer mode when it comes to worms, with him more so being specialized for killing rather than the Kengan matches, so there are downsides. However, I also believe there's a mode for Ryuki where he also switches on, similar to how Mukaku probably has a mode as well, where he just goes into crazy killer unstoppable mode. Now in the coming flashback, we're going to have Mukaku explain why he actually had Ryuki and trained him to kill the worms and everything like that. My theory is that he stole Ryuki from the worms and pretty much manipulated him to actually kill them, because Mukaku's overall goal is to take out the worms, because I believe they were key in, I guess, 5 of the 7 Nikos dying, apart from Ohma's master, who is now dead, and the Tiger Niko, who is the last remaining. This whole thing has been for revenge. However, something suspicious regarding Mukaku is how he went straight for Ohma when he attacked them. With Retsudo and Himuro talking about this, since Ohma looks like Ryuki, you wouldn't really expect him to just outright attack someone looking like Ryuki. Of course, this is all explained by one thing: who Ohma and Ryuki are clones of, as no one in the Kengan Association knows what the connector looks like. It's very clear that Mukaku does know. Ohma and Ryuki look like him. Mukaku may have thought it was the connector and straight away went for to kill him, as that's his current goal, to kill the connector. That's pretty much the explanation of this scene. It's because they don't know what Wulong looks like. There isn't really any other reason. Mukaku, I guess, just thought it was him. As Ohma and Ryuki do look quite similar, but there is little differences, and I get the sense that Ohma does look a little similar to Wulong rather than Ryuki to Wulong, if I'm being honest. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. So the initial parts of the story are pretty much the same, apart from one thing. This of course was explained to Ohma by Kuroki back in Kengan, with Mukaku being aware of Kuroki, as Kuroki's master is the person who helped Mukaku create the Niko style. I talked about that in my previous video. However, the story begins with, of course, the 7 Nikos, with the final line of Mukaku saying the following: "Conquering the inside would have been within our grasp if it hadn't been for what happened next." This of course is what happened in the forest, which resulted in, I'm guessing, the majority of the 7 Nikos to die and Mukaku to disappear. Most likely the worm and the Tiger Niko betraying the Nikos. So one of these guys, whoever it was, if it is part of this, the Tiger Niko betrayed them, joined the worm took out all the Nikos, and then that's pretty much what happened. That's my theory for now. We're probably going to get it revealed next chapter, which is very exciting. So yeah. Great information chapter. I'm glad we're going into a flashback. I'm glad Mukaku is actually going to explain everything, even though Ohma doesn't really seem like he cares too much, which is a little unfortunate regarding his character. He doesn't really care too much about the lore of everything, while everyone in the fandom, like, that's all we want to know. So hopefully Ohma changes a little bit and, you know, presses more questions. Mukaku doesn't really seem to be acknowledging Ohma as well. It's all about Ryuki, while Ohma is very well a clone of Shen Wulong as well, and more so connected to the Nikos than even what Ryuki is. So a little bit weird regarding that, kind of suspicious as well. But that's everything for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Check out all the other stuff in the description if you haven't already, and shout out to these mad lads who support the channel via the Patreon. That's it, guys. Peace.